Hi, welcome to toddfun.com, and today's fun is a product review. We're going to be reviewing the Circuit Specialist's soldering station. The particular one we're reviewing is the Premier 75 watt. Now they do have some other versions there, which I'll have links to all of these in the show notes. The only difference is this is the Premier version in that it has a resin pot cleaning for the tip, so we'll see how that works. And it also comes with 10 extra tips. 10. And so that means you're going to have one of pretty much every tip style you could think of having right in there. Now that's like a $40 value. This product as a Premier set is $80. So essentially half the value of this thing's already wrapped up in those 10 extra tips. So it also seems to have some interesting features like a sleep mode and an automatic power off, an ability to have 3 saved temperatures. It can do Celsius and Fahrenheit and has a digital display. So these are all could be really good things. So I'm going to be comparing it with my Hakko 936 over here. The tips may even be exchangeable with them. We'll see that when we get there. Now, just in full disclosure, Circuit Specialists, if you don't already know, is a local company to where I live, and I have done product reviews for them in the past, and this is a sponsored product review. That means I get this, I get to review it, give my opinion of it, tear it down, do what I want with it. Sometimes I get to keep the equipment, and in this case I don't need another soldering station, so I'll be returning it. But in full disclosure, that's the agreement I have with them, and I'd like to do more, because then the more of these sponsored reviews and the more equipment I can get and or just get my hands on so I can tear it down and show it to you, and that's fun for me and it's fun for you. So thumbs up if you do like that, and let me know. So we'll go over to the bench and take a look at this, do some compares. Then I'm going to use it for a little while, and after using it for a while I'll have a closing video on how I liked it. So we won't be finishing today, but we will get a good look at it right away. So this station is made in China, but I've purchased a lot of stuff from Circuit Specialist just on my own because they're local, and they do maintain and control their quality quite nicely. I've been happy with that. The website for Circuit Specialist is circuitspecialist.com. I'll have a link for that, and if you're in the there's a circuitspecialist.eu. So if you're, I guess, there. If you want to purchase there, then you don't want to purchase in America. You got that. So we get the 10 tips, and we'll take a quick look at those here in a second. And the manual, they call it 3-channel, and that essentially means you can save 3 different. If you have like a low temperature, mid temperature, high temperature, or some special temperatures you have those features. It gives you a little bit of detail here if you wanted to glance at it. But this, I'll link to this manual in the show notes so we don't have to go it over in detail here. But yeah, sleep mode, automatic shut-off, and multi-channel. So it's just covering that interesting things. It is calibratable, so you can calibrate this, meaning if you want to produce an offset because you know the temperature's not right with maybe a new tip or some other thing you might be having a problem with, you can do an offset calibration with this. So that's interesting as well. You get a tip. Now this is supposed to be a resistance to burning, and it's supposed to be slightly longer. So we'll take a look at that here in a second or two. Looks like we get 2 boxes in here along with the tip and the manual. And let's see. Okay, so this is going to be the stand, and this is the resin pot as they call it. Tip cleaning. So it's got some brass in there for brass cleaning, and then there's resin in the bottom. So if you can see down in there, there's sort of like a resin that your tip is supposed to go into, and you're supposed to clean that up. Now, from what I was reading, this comes with 2 of these. Mine did not, I suppose, because mine's just a sample. But you're supposed to get 2 of these in this Premier set. It's interesting enough. It has these holders for the tips. Let's see if those fit in. It'd be interesting how they fit. I suppose they just go like that. Well, that's not too bad. There's no other kind of shaking around a little bit. I'm not sure I'd store my tips like that, but certainly you could. I think they would fall around. Yeah, they're going to fall around a little bit. These littler ones don't exactly sit in there. You can see they, yeah, not exactly. It seems to work good with the bigger tips, but your littler tips, that's just not going to work. It's and it doesn't even fit the blade. You got the blade doesn't even go down in there. So, oh well, there's a little wank right there. Interesting enough, because it does come. See, it's falling out all over the place. We'll throw those aside. It comes with your expandable little sponge, in case you do like sponges. But oddly enough, there's no place to put the sponge. Some soldering stations, there'll be a place for steel wool and a place for your sponge. But in this case, you have to pick. You're gonna have to tear this off. Looks like there's just a sticky pad under there, like a squishy pad, and you would have to. This would have to sit in there, and once this expands, it'll sit in there. But right now, it slides around. You have to pick one or the other. I'm a huge fan of these steel wool cleaners. I use the Hakko one, the 955B. I've got a couple of these, and I use these all the time. What I do like about these is I can take them out, and they get dirty, and once you yank them out, you can shake this on the ground, and you can beat all the filings or the solder out, then kind of work it around, and you get a nice new spot, and it's ready to go again. This one you wouldn't be able to shake. You could shake this out, but it's going to get resin kind of in it, and I'm wondering how much resin is going to get in here, and how much resin is going to get inside of this. And I would say this is a much more aggressive kind of feeling, stiffer. This is a little softer and squishier, and certainly a lot smaller than. There's a big size difference, so you don't get as much as you do with those. But hey, there's that. So I worry about this kind of mixing in with the resin, and well, maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not. I have not tried this before. The manual does say to leave it covered. There's a little plastic cover here, and I guess to protect the resin from getting dirty and dusty or something. I'm not sure, but you're supposed to leave it covered when you're not really using it. It's not a very heavy station. My Hakko station is pretty heavy. It's a little beefier. It's pretty substantial. So I am comparing this to my Hakko, so why not? But the Hakko's pretty expensive comparatively. Well, not really. These Hakkos, though they don't have nearly the features that we're about to see in this Circuit Specialist one, these run about the same price. Well, these are about $95 right now in most places, but they don't have all the features, so maybe they're worth that to you. And like I say, this does come without the Premier set for like $50. So it's about the exact same size as my Hakko too. So yeah. So this is a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter. It does have little rubber feet on it, so it's not going to push around much on your bench. I'm curious as to how the iron sticks in there. So let's take a look at that real quick because we're talking about it. How does the iron stick in there? Comes with a little protective tip. Take that off. So let's see. Wow, they're very close in. If I line them up right here, the Hakko's a little longer in this part, and this has some sort of a vent-looking thing in it. I'm not sure why that is, but it looks like they're almost identical. The plastic on the Hakko feels better. This plastic feels cheaper. The handle feels better on this one. It feels at least it feels softer and more textured, whereas this is like a hard plastic. They feel about the same right here. No difference there. Strain relief on the Hakko, very comparable. Almost no difference. The cord is very flexible on the Hakko. Why not compare it to a Hakko, you know? Yeah, it's very, very flexible. I would say the Hakko is just a little bit more flexible, but not substantially at all. And the strain relief is definitely about the same. The connection looks almost identical, I think, as the Hakko. Let me take a look at the Hakko here. No, this they're reversed. The Hakko has there's the male-female difference between these genders. So that's one way to stop you from switching them around, huh? Well, didn't really care anyway. Well, that's interesting. This actually has a name on it, 907K, and this is an ESD safe tip, and it supposedly we should be able to see that this is a grounded tip, and so you shouldn't have, so it should be ESD safe. But you got to make sure then you don't go poking this someplace where you got voltage, because then it's going to be going straight to the ground pin on that. Okay. While we're still looking at the wand being, we're just getting all excited about looking at everything. Let's see how that comes off. Okay, that seems pretty reasonable. They are sleeved. And let's make sure these spares fit fine. Yes, they do. They feel about right. Yeah. I don't have any complaints. Curiosity was, this is for my Hakko. How does it fit? Boy, it looks like it's, that comes off my Hakko there, actually. That stays in the Hakko. So it's got a, well, they say this is a made in Japan ceramic here, so it's probably the same. This is another Hakko. Yeah. Not sure it's as tight as it needs to be, though. Yeah, it's the same. It is no difference. So these are Hakko. I am interested in the width, and the Circuit Specialist is about 3.76 millimeters, and the Hakko is just a hair over 3.8. Let's try this one. This is also from my Hakko, and it fits that one. Will it screw on? Yeah. So this was for my Hakko, and it fits, but this one's just a little bit too fat to fit inside that sleeve. So maybe not all Hakkos will fit the Circuit Specialist, but all the Circuit Specialists fit the Hakko. So here's a bit of a strangeness. The manual as well as the online advertisement says that this particular station comes with a 1.2 meter long cord for the iron, and that they advertise that that's, you know, that's longer than most soldering stations. Well, it's actually 6 inches shorter than my Hakko, and it's just barely over a meter long, so it's certainly not 1.2 meters in length. Good cable, and I don't particularly like a really long cable, but you know, it's definitely not longer than most stations, and it's shorter than their advertisement. So for the base, it's got a really nice collar on there, and it sits in there really nice. It doesn't wobble. You know, just the same as any other good one. I'm happy with that. Now I tend to keep my extra tips in this because I don't really use a sponge. I use my brass. And so this thing, these don't work so great. It'd be nice if there was a tray up here, or I guess what you could do is you could just throw them down in here, and they would stay. They would stay down there nice. And when you want one, you can just get in there and dig one out. It'd be nicer if these were somehow machined to, but there's really probably no way to do that. So, nah, don't care for that. These are the 10 tips you get. You get 3 chisels, and then 3 cone, and then 3 with a sort of a flat on them, sort of a pan style. There's a little solder in that one still from the factory, and they're in different sizes. And you even get quite fine if you have to do some really fine work. I don't normally use fine unless I'm doing some really tiny traces. A good sized chisel would get some heat on something. And then I tend to use this one, is about the size I use the most. That's probably a millimeter. And then a knife. You got it. So this is my Hakko. This is the Circuit Specialist. I mean, that looks like it's the same exact mold. I can't think that that's not even the same exact mold. I mean, even the bottom, it looks like they're identical. The Hakko comes with rubber feet. The rubber feet seem to be missing on this one, though there are inserts for them. They either forgot to snap them on at the factory or they just don't put them on. There's a serial number on the Hakko, but there's not one on this. Well, there's a serial number on the back on this one. They just put the serial number in a slightly different place, it looks like. This has a hole in the back. I don't know what for. This one does not have that molded hole. Other than that, these cases are identical. The main on-off power switch is in the same place, though the switch does look different. The fronts, of course, are going to be different. The connector is different. Now, my Hakko is sort of an analog scale, which I do. I like an analog scale. I've never been a fan of digital, but if this digital is going to be using what feels to be, well, it's certainly not an analog. It's not just a pot. This is a rotary encoder, so which can give you some really fine control. You know, like maybe a degree per click, and then maybe even acceleration. You know, maybe if you go really fast, it'll go up quick, or if you go up slow, it'll go up one at a time. We'll see if there's any acceleration in that. Back to the case style. This has a little bit of a bevel on it. There's no bevel. Well, yeah, there is a little bevel there. It's just harder to see. So I'd say that's the same still. There's obviously some mount points up front. There's some hex bolts here where there's no such thing here. And so normally, yes, I'm a fan of the analog, but if this can be really sensitive and have these push button temperatures that get you to the different temperatures quickly, that would suffice for me just fine. This has a little light that tells you when it's heating, but it doesn't tell you if it's just on. So sometimes if it's not heating and you don't catch it, you forget it and you leave it on. This one, which costs actually a little bit more, the Hakko is a little bit more than the Circuit Specialist, and this one does not have an auto off or sleep mode or anything fancy like that. Oh, there's a little cal spot up front for this one. So this one can be caled, but you have to have a tool, and whereas this one can be caled from the actual front display. We'll see that in a minute. That's interesting. I never bothered though, and you probably wouldn't on these. These are caled at the factory, and so for the most people, that's all you're ever going to care. Now this one has Celsius and Fahrenheit just as two separate scales, which is, never really cared for that. I like the fact this one can be changed to just Fahrenheit, because that's the units I work in. Looks like we have a little cover thing. We'll get rid of that. So looking at the front panel, my first impression is the silk screening needs a little more attention to the silk screening. This is sort of bleeding together a little bit here. This silk screening looks good. And I guess it's nice that, lets you know that you have these features like, Celsius, Fahrenheit, auto sleep, auto shut off, temperature correction, which is essentially your calibration. But they're just printed there just so you know it can do that. It's not like these are feature sets that you can select or something. But in essence, these features are selectable by this push button. This is not only a rotary encoder, it's a push button select. This is complete nonsense here. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm sorry, it's product review and all, but I have to be honest, this needs to not be on the product. Why is that? Well, it's saying heat recovery graph. Wank, don't do it. You're not impressing anyone, and the people you're impressing aren't the people you want to impress. This is just saying that, hey, you're going to raise up to some temperature, and they got some scale there, and they're saying, oh, maybe 350 Celsius, and then it's going to hold for a while, and then it's going to oscillate, and then you're going to what? You're going to what? It's going to go down in sort of a sleep mode and come back up. Is that what they're saying? And this is the recovery time in seconds. Like you're going to get, supposedly this graph is telling you can get all the way up to your full temperature in what? Maybe 15 seconds or something like that is what that's kind of showing. But you don't want that on the front of a product. That degrades the product massively. It's total wank. It's poor. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't show anything. It's just information. It belongs in the manual. If you want to spec out how fast it recovers, spec it in the manual. Don't put it on the front of the product. It makes it look cheap. So I really hope those go away. The rest of the stuff pretty good. You got your name for your product because it's rebadged. In fact, it's ESD safe, but that kind of bleeds together a little bit. But that is kind of that logo. It kind of looks like that anyway, usually. Everything else looks really good. At first glance, these look like these are lights, but they're buttons. So it's channel, 1, 2, and 3, and we'll show using those, and then the name at the top. So all the rest is really good. But let's move on to features. So I don't have the iron plugged in, but I just turned it on, and you can't see the display. I can see it, but only barely. It is blue, it is backlit, sort of a backlit blue with white letters. I can just barely see it. Strangely enough, though, when you set it down at an angle like a bench and you push it away, it comes in perfectly clear. I don't know if I could ever show that on a camera, though. Not really. I'll try some shots here in a minute, but it is very readable. No, not very. It is readable on the bench at that angle. Now, I would much rather see a display that you could see at any angle. Like right now at this angle, I couldn't see this. So if this was at some higher level up on my bench, or at this angle with that lighting in it, I would not be able to see those letters. So certainly not a good display for all possible angles and lighting. Yet on my bench where I keep it right now, it's very readable. Well, let's hope the low light conditions work. Now, you can see it now on the camera real good, and this is about the way it looks when it's on the bench at that angle, back into the bench. And so it is about that readable on my bench when in use. So that's nice. Right now this isn't hooked up, so we're getting an error, but you can see there's channel 2, channel 1 is at 100 cc, 100 Celsius, 200 Celsius, channel 3 is 300 Celsius. So let's first change it to Fahrenheit. So we push this button and it flashes. This is what would you like, and I'll say, well, I'd like to change that to Fahrenheit. And then I can either wait or push the button again. If I wait, it just sets. And now when I turn on and off, it should come back in Fahrenheit. And it does. And it's converted the numbers to Fahrenheit now. So rather being Celsius, they're in Fahrenheit, which is good. I like that. And it shows what channel you're on, so you don't have to forget what channel you're on. That stays up. That's good. The other features, when you go into here, there's your Fahrenheit flashing again. I hit this, I'm tapping this button. This is your turn off when low. Whoops, I waited too long, 1 second. So I go back into there, and so now when I start turning this, it's like how many minutes before it goes into low power, which means it goes down to 200 Celsius. And it will stay there until your power off setting. So let's say we want to, low after 1 minute. You can just wait until it quits flashing or hit the button again. Well, I waited too long, but a few seconds and it goes back. So low is 1 minute, and then we'll go power off in, say, 2 minutes. And then we'll test that. The other settings in there is low, power off, and this is your calibration and how many degrees off. So if you know your tip is wrong, you can set it higher or lower by that calibration, and that way you'll get the proper reading of the tip temperature for whatever reason you might be off. But normally it's calibrated, so 0 should be good. And we're back to here. I wanted to do that so that we could first go in here, and we want to set, let's say we go to 3, we're at 500 Fahrenheit. Let's just crank this thing all the way up, just as if we're using the Hakko. I want to see how quickly it can go. So max is 976. So considering this rotary dial, what's interesting about it is if you're just doing 1, it does a single degree at a time until you hit a 10. So right now it's going by 10s, but if I start going back up, it goes by 1s until I hit 850, and as soon as I hit 850, it'll go up by 10s. I turn around and go the other way, and it'll start doing 1s again until it gets to a unit of 10. As soon as it hits a unit of 10, it starts going by 10s. So rather than doing an acceleration and deacceleration, it just says, hey, if you're going more than 10 clicks, it's going to start jumping by 10. And then if you go the other way, it'll go back to 1s. And it's kind of intuitive. I prefer something that's more like acceleration, meaning if I do this, I want to be going by 10s, and if I do this, I want to be going by 1s. And it should be able to sense how quickly you're turning it. Rather than, because right now if I can go really fast and I'm doing 1s, and immediately I'm doing 10s, and then I go slow, I want to be doing 1s, and it's doing 10s still. So that's just a programming thing. I just wish people had the sense to think about that. That you can do acceleration, but this works too. Once if I wanted to go down to 600, I could go really fast, so I see I went past. See, it makes it a little harder for a person to kind of dial in, because as long as it thinks you're going by too quickly, then it's jumping too quickly. So it works though. Let's see. So it works. So all the way to the max, and like I just select 3, and I wait, and as soon as it switches back to this error screen, then it's been set. So there's 1, and there's 3. If I changed it by 1 degree and just wait, it'll immediately set. So now if I go back, it's changed by that 1 degree. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1017, 18. Well, pretty darn close. Yeah, it's melting fine. We're up to about 750 now. If you could see, I can see the display just fine. We're up to 750. Now we're up to 800. And yeah, it was a little slower than 15 seconds. It wipes good, but this doesn't work so good. But it wipes good. It cleans good when you wipe. Well, let's try this solder solution down here, or this resin. So we'll stick the tip in there, and it melts pretty quick. Huh. Yeah, and it did melt it in there. See how that kind of melted down in there? I kind of afraid it was going to do that. But you're supposed to put it in there and let it and melt it around and then wipe it off like this. Man, I'm not so sure I'm a fan of that. Maybe I will be. Now this is supposed to be semi-burn proof, so let's give that a shot, huh? Let's get that up close. So if you accidentally touch this cord, it's supposed to resist burning. Oh, wow, look at that. It kind of does. See if I can get that. Well, I'll be danged. That's that doesn't burn. Let's try my Hakko. That's the same deal. I suppose it's silicone. Yeah, it doesn't burn on that either. So it's a good cord. It will do lead and lead-free soldering just fine. There's no problem there. What is interesting is that it's got a little, looks like a little flashy light here, and that's a flashy light saying when it's heating and not heating. So right now it's up to temperature and it's just pulsing on and off, telling you that it's pulsing. And then if I go to here, it's going to say, oh, 750, and just in a second here it's going to go, oh, that's too hot. So then it goes, oh, well, you're currently at 800 and something, and so it goes from what you want for a setting to what it is. And then it's, of course, dropping, and the little light isn't on. And so you can see it when it's trying to change temperature. As soon as it cooled the tip down to 170, it starts flashing to maintain that heat now at 750. Now, we'll go ahead and set a timer here because we got it set to low power mode. So within 1 minute, because that's not realistic, you wouldn't set 1 minute, but within 1 minute here, we should see low power mode, and we're probably down to even less than that now. So this 750 should stop, and it should start dropping to whatever the 200 degree Celsius would be in Fahrenheit. And then another minute later, this thing should completely power off if it doesn't sense that we're using it. So we should be coming up on it. Okay, so yeah, now it's starting to drop in temperature again. It's going into its low power mode, automatic. Well, that's nice. You're not going to burn up your tips when you're not using something. The question is, let's let it get down to the 200 and let's see how quickly it gets back up. Well, it's dropping more than to the 200 degrees Celsius, because that would be 392 Fahrenheit. Okay, that was the auto power off. That was the 2 minutes. So I can assume that it wouldn't wake up now. I mean, I would expect it not to wake up. Not sure what you have to do to wake it up, but it technically considers that power off, which, you know, it's different than the switch on the side. That did something. Clicking the button woke it up. Okay, so it went down to 212 Fahrenheit in sleep mode. There's no auto power off at this point. And that's interesting. I wonder what and you can see it does pulse the power ever so slightly to keep it at that temperature. It should be 392 Fahrenheit. Let's see how much it takes to wake it up. So I'm going to pick up the pen, like I'm going to solder. Oh, that's all it took. Okay, that wasn't bad. And I have it set for 300, so it got right to 300 real quick. But yeah, all I did was pick up the pen and move it into like a position like you would solder, and it immediately came out of sleep mode. And that's the bottom of sleep mode. Sleep mode did turn on in a minute. It did start ramping down, and it didn't stop until it got to 100°C, which is going to be the same as the same temperature, but this is Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. So there's just an error in the printing of the manual. The manual specifically says that sleep mode goes down to 200°C, and it doesn't. It goes down to 100. And Fahrenheit, as you saw, went down to 212. So that's like the bottom. That's like basically turning this guy all the way down to completely bottom, which, you know, is fine, you know, but it's even going farther than that. I mean, this would be 200 Celsius, 293 Fahrenheit, and this is actually going deeper than that. This is going all the way down to 100. So it'd probably be better if they fix the software and make it like the manual says and set it at 200 Celsius or 290, which would be the same as 293 or 392 Fahrenheit. And then the tip's going to be a little bit warmer, have a less recovery. Now, right now, we're in channel 2, which is set at a pretty reasonable 390 Celsius, which would be a pretty reasonable soldering temperature. So let's see how quickly it heats up to that once I just move it. So yeah, it sensed it right away that I went into position. We're at like 3 seconds. 4, 15. So 15 seconds. So when it goes into sleep mode, you're going to pick up your iron, you're going to go to use it, and you're going to be like, it's not working. Oh, it's in sleep mode. Well, we'll wait your 15 seconds. You'll see this thing ramping up, so you get really, really good feedback. It's not like you're like sitting there wondering, is this warm or not? Which is what you kind of have to wait. With this guy, you have to wait till it starts blinking to know you've made temperature. Whereas this, you get a really nice digital feedback. I like that. That's nice. And then you get the blinky when it's sustaining the temperature. So that's really sweet. I like that. And I would just set the sleep mode to something a little more reasonable, like maybe, you know, go into sleep mode after 5 minutes and then go into power off after, you know, 20 minutes or 30 minutes or something. So I've been doing some more tests and using it a bit more, and so a little bit of feedback on this is interesting actually. When you go into low power mode, if you don't set low power mode, then power off mode does not work. So I was doing some testing with my kilowatt meter. When you first power this thing on and it wants to ramp up to it's like 800 Fahrenheit, it'll pull about 800 milliamps. When it's basically just pulsing and maintaining its temperature, pretty much any of your higher temperatures, it's using about half an amp. And when it's in low power mode or power off mode, it's using about right at 80 milliamps. So if this is in power off mode, you're chewing about 80 milliamps or 5 watts. So hardly nothing to care about really when it's in its programmable power off mode or its low power mode. Well, its low power mode will use more than 80 milliamps, but it's only going to be pulsing it at 100 Celsius. But they really should reprogram this thing to be 200 Celsius. That's what they advertise, and that's really what it should do. Now, I've had both these irons on for about the same amount of time, and I can tell you that I can feel almost no heat in this handle on my Hakko. On this one, just a little bit. Nothing I would say is troublesome. I wouldn't say there's any heat there that would bother you. Interestingly enough, though, this slightly cheaper plastic here, it's blistering hot. You would not, ooh, boy, you don't want to touch that even for a microsecond. Whereas I can put my thumb on that for quite a long time. This is not transferring heat. More than you would want to comfortably do. But you couldn't put your thumb on that for not that plastic gets real hot there. Okay, so the tip of this thing is supposed to be grounded through here. Yeah. So I'm going to try and do a little solder rework on this board. I am going to use the iron for a little while, see if I can get a better idea how I like it as a bench soldering station. And so at 750 Fahrenheit it had no problem pulling that, heating up that large terminal. And we'll solder suck it out. And folks, that's I'm not going to get that part off. I was just seeing how it would heat up at 730 Fahrenheit. And I'll basically, I'm going to resolder it now. Yeah, no problems there. It did fine there. Let's look at a part we might be able to take off. This capacitor might be able to come off. Right here. And let's see. I'm not at the highest temperature, like I say. I'm only at 733. Yeah, it's having no problem. I'm just bouncing between the two pins, and I got that cap off pretty quick. So, yeah, that works good. Okay, I just repeated that exact same set of steps with the solder, desoldering, and pulling out a cap with my Hakko, and the circuit specialist did better at the same temperature, the 730 temperature setting. Then again, I can see the temperature on this one, and this one it's just an analog, sort of, pretty close. But so it did seem like it did either this one just had a little bit more heat because I can see the temperature, and this one I'm guessing on the Hakko it just seemed like it just didn't have quite as much heat. And I have always used my Hakko at a lot higher setting than I normally would most solder irons. So my Hakko might be a little low on temperature, whereas this may be more accurate. So I was able to desolder this large heat sink with its component. It looks like it's a 5-volt regulator, actually negative 5-volt regulator, and it did it just fine, no problems. So when you're done though using it, I might even set this to probably sleep after 3 minutes or 2 minutes, because 15 seconds is not that long to wait if you're not busy doing something, and then your tips stay better longer, and everything's still hot. Go ahead and get a lot of solder on that tip, leaving a lot of that solder on there. Then just turn off your machine, and then that solder that you leave on there will help protect that tip even longer. It's not real critical, especially if you're not overheating your tips. As long as you keep them really clean and tin them all the time, before use and after use, they'll last a long time. It's really nice having all these tips. So I put on the finest tip because I want to just kind of do that a test. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. If I could zoom in on something here. Assume we had to get in something really fine in there. And I'll add some solder to either side. There we go. And yeah, we could get in there and do a pretty delicate little job if we had to. So it's nice, another nice thing about having a tip for all those different variable sizes for different jobs. You get this blade, which isn't really for doing woodworking because it's tinned and everything. It's not for wood. But I'm thinking, get in there and we can heat a whole, probably 4 to 6 pads all at once. Of course, it'd be easy to damage anything close by, I guess, but for the most part, it seems like an interesting tool to have around. Yeah. Clean those pads up. Yeah, if a person cleaned up those pads, you could unsolder several pins at once without having more complex tools around. So handy, very. So I have here the Adafruit data logging shield for the Arduino. It's a shield that will allow you to hook up and record certain data, temperature, whatever you want to program your Arduino to read. We'll store it in this data logger. It'll come with battery, a small SD card, and and there you go. It'll store all those readings for a significant amount of time for you. I'm just going to use the iron, the Circuit Specialist iron, to see how well I like it performing doing this assembly. I will be back when this is done. I think you can even tell that at this exact bench angle, it's very readable. So no worries really. And the controls are really easy to use. It's easy to set. I'm currently running at Fahrenheit with low shutoff of 1 minute and the power shutoff of 10 minutes, and then no offsets, no calibration offsets. It's really easy to use. I think if it had the rubber feet down the bottom, when you go to push it, it wouldn't slide back. Like this one slides too if you poke at it, and it has rubber feet. But it would be nice if this had its rubber feet, because it would probably help a little bit for when you hit these buttons for it not to push back on you. But yeah, display is very, very good really at this exact angle. If you had it higher though, yeah, it might still be okay. It starts to fade out as you get low though, right on. So this rosin flux reservoir combo Brillo pad, brass pad, it just isn't good. So one, it's not as good and sturdy of a brass pad as the Hakko, so it's a little thin. It kind of like doesn't really feel like it's getting on the tip good. And this rosin flux at the bottom it's all broken up, and you can't shake out because you'll get solder in this filings here, and you want to take that out and shake it and clean out the bottom to get the cruddy dirt and filings out, or solder bits out. And like here, if I poke it down, you'll notice it sort of breaks these things up, and this thing is busting up in here as I was trying to use it, and it just kind of gets dirty and icky on the tip. So if you kind of look at the tip, it just sort of it's getting all that kind of dirty flux all over the sponge. So even though you're supposed to kind of push it in there, you don't know if you're hitting any of the rosin or not, unless you see the smoke. You're kind of guessing, but then it's all chipped up. You can't clean the brass Brillo pad, and it just doesn't look clean. And so if you don't have a clean looking tip that's well tinned, then you're getting contaminants in your joints. And so this just does not work. And I've been using it for a while, enough to realize I don't want it over there. I want to use the sponge over here, and enough to know that it's just not cleaning good. And no, you're supposed to keep this lid on it, and I went to use it once and poked right through that clear lid. So yeah, that confused me once. And no, I don't like it. So how should a tip look if that's not doing it? Well, the tip is still a good tip. And so I have these, I don't know if you can get them anymore, but you can get them from other companies. You can get these tip tinning and cleaning little cups. Other companies make them other than Radio Shack and call it different things. But I use these for decades, and they last, I mean, 2 of these will last you a lifetime. And you just get in there and it tins the tip. And you want to do that to new tips, and you want to do that when you're done for the day, and you want to just leave it like that when you're done for the day. And that coats it with some tinning. And it won't oxidize or anything overnight. And then when you're ready for the next day, you just do it again, and then you take a Brillo pad or a sponge, and you just jab it a few times, and then there, nice and shiny every time. And you can use a sponge too; it'll do it. And this just doesn't do that. It just seems like as soon as you start using it, it just makes a dirty, gross mess on the tip. And then you kind of use your sponge, and I think what's happening is it's building up crud. There's no way to. It's building up crud on the sponge, and it just starts making it dirtier and dirtier, as opposed to something that's separate and instantly clean. Yeah. Okay. Well, no on this. Don't know what it is. Don't like it. Don't care for it. Never going to use it again. I am liking the iron though. The heat recovery of this thing is really fast, much faster than my Hakko. It goes to sleep and it heats up really quick. When I'm doing big joints, it heats up quick. I can run it at a more appropriate temperature because it seems to always deliver the heat. I do like the tip, the iron. Okay, as I'm using the iron, I'm basically switching between my Hakko over here and the Circuit Specialist. And with the iron stand, if you notice the angle, this has a really shallow angle, and it's actually kind of tipped out. It does this a lot, and so here it looks like the angle might be the same, but that's a fairly shallow angle. I got about maybe that much, whereas if you look over here, it's a lot steeper angle, so it's about as far as I can stretch my fingers up to the back, whereas over here it's about that much difference. Now what that causes is, as you're using the iron and you go to put it away, you kind of get your fingers in the whatever is here, so you got to kind of keep your fingers back. And if you had the can here, that's another reason I wasn't really liking the can here, because when the can was sitting here, there wasn't much room for your hand here. You kind of had to drop it in and move your hand away, and it catches the cord here. So this had to go right away, so the sponge had a lower profile. But even then, when I'm working at the bench and I come over, I'm getting my fingers in the sponge, and I try to pull my hand away, and there's no room, and it catches the cord and pulls it out. And so it's always getting caught like that. Now if you compare that to one that has a higher angle, not the fact that it's a better, sturdier bench, that's nice, but it's got a high angle, so as you come in, your hand isn't getting anywhere as close to the sponge, and you're not going to catch it on the cord as you come away, so you just drop it in and move your hand. You just can't do that with this. See, I just tried to move it and it came out. You can't just drop it in there and move your hand away. So what they need is they just basically need this to be bent at a higher angle, so that it comes in like this, and then it would be fine. So maybe they can fix that by increasing the height of this and bend process. But yeah, too shallow. It's cumbersome to use while you're working. Alright, I am done soldering up the data logger for my Arduino, and it's got a little proto shield area and so forth, and the solder iron did very well. I was very happy with it. It had a good heat recovery. It did all the joints just nice and smooth and clean. Quite happy with it. I will go ahead and close with my summary. Well, that is the video review of the Circuit Specialist 75W Premier package. So it comes with 2 of these resin pots, and it comes with a 10-pack of these tips. Very nice. Now you can get this same exact programmable auto off on full featured station for $60, but then you don't get those tips, and it's nice to have a collection of tips laying around. But that said, there's plenty of options at Circuit Specialist for stations. If you go, I'll have a link to Circuit Specialists in the show notes, and underneath their solder stations, you'll see they have this model. They have you can buy it without the tips. You can buy an analog version that's not programmable and doesn't have all the features. So depending on your price point and where you want to be, they usually have something to match. They also send pretty high-end gear at Circuit Specialists, as well as they'll package and make kits for schools and stuff like that too. That's really a good place. So schools have a place to go and kind of get a package deal too. So let's close. I know it's a long video, but this is a sponsored video, so I want it to be as complete as possible, and hopefully the people watching it all the way to the end want to know exactly what this has, so that they know not only what does this solder iron have for them, what should they be aware of no matter what soldering station they're getting. That way you're fully informed and can look at these details and compare them against other stations that are for sale, so that you get exactly what is going to be best for your bench for years to come. So let's go with the negatives. Let me cover the negatives. Partly because that might be used to correct the product, because this is Circuit Specialist's product, and so that you know what's there, which may or may not be problematic to you. For the wand, it really was quite happy with the iron. They advertised the cord as being 1.2 meters, and it wasn't. It was 1 meter. So if they're going to advertise for 1.2, it should be 1.2, although I don't want that long of a cord. somebody might. The angle in which this goes in is too shallow, as we saw in the video. I don't like that. This isn't very heavy. I wish this had a little bit more weight to it, but it does work. It's perfectly fine. These holes aren't very useful because the iron tips just flop around too much when you move this. Interestingly enough, this has pads, which are nice, though this one does not have. So the negative on this is the pads are missing, and I think that would be nice if they had the pads. On the display, we do not want to see this graph. It's meaningless information, and it kind of cheapens it. The rotary encoder. Now, even though I was really a big fan of the rotary encoder, I didn't like the fact it wasn't velocity sensitive. I should be able to spin this and it should go, oh, you're going fast, let me go by tens. And then as soon as I start to slow down, it should go, oh, you're going slow, I'll go by 1. Now, why is that important? Well, because if I'm going to go slow and then as soon as I hit 10, it starts going by tens, and then I go, oh, I went too far, I start going back, and then if I go by more than 10 again, it's going to jump by 10 again. And so when you're trying to, like, say you're trying to set 600, you kind of go fast, and all of a sudden it starts jumping by tens. That's great. You go past, you hit 600, and now you're at 620, 630, and you want to come back. Well, you're trying to come back slow, and you're going by ones, and then of course you hit, and you're going by tens. And so you're leaping back and forth on where your setting is. If they had velocity programming in this, which is just a program, it goes, you're clicking fast, go by tens. You're clicking slow, go by ones. And that way, just because you turn directions or go too much, it doesn't change that increment. It knows how to do it based on how you're using the knob, more like a real knob maybe. So that's a negative I'd like fixed, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. The auto off feature and the low power, I really like that. That makes this device very useful. You can set it to even as short as 1 minute, and it will go into low power mode after 1 minute. And as soon as you go and tip that iron about 70 degrees, you hear a click noise, this audibly click, and it'll start heating up. Problem is, it cooled down to 100 degrees Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit, and it's not. It's advertised to go to 392 Fahrenheit or 200 Celsius, and that means the tip is hotter. Even though it's a cool tip, it's a hot enough tip to where the heat recovery is less time. So when you do go to use the iron, it will recover quickly to your program temperature. So that's got to be changed. That's just a software change. It would be nice if they could make it programmable, make another click event on here where I can program my low temperature. That'd be nice, because then if I like it a little hotter, I can have it a little hotter. And then another quirk is you have to set the low temperature before you can set the power off. You can't not have a low temperature and have power off. That seems odd. I understand that they did it, but the power off starts counting from the low temperature time. Okay, then that should be clearly in the manual. If I set 1 minute, or say I set 5 minutes for the low temperature, and then I set 10 minutes for the off, I'm thinking in my head that it's 10 minutes complete. You know, I'm thinking 5 minutes and another 5 minutes. It doesn't matter which way, as long as it's explained in the manual, it's understandable. But if I don't set low power mode, it should still do power off. That's a program feature. That's just my opinion. My last negative is this rosin cleaning. I don't like it. You get 2 of these with the Premier, and I wouldn't use 1. It's just not the solution, as I showed in the video. It's not good. The tips do seem to be pretty quality. They actually fit the Hakko. That's nice. I'm not so sure they clean real good. Maybe there's a little bit of an issue there, but they do clean up okay. It's just that it seems like even though I leave it clean, it seems to it seems to oxidize while it sits there, even though it's off. So I find that odd, really. Okay, let's go on to the positives. The positives, this programmable. That's wonderful. I love that. You know, it's got 3 different settings, so you can quickly click between the different things you want. I love it. I love the way when if you're on a particular number, it tells you what number you're on. Beautiful. I like the fact that when you turn it and you leave it for 6 seconds, it reprograms to that as your final temperature. I like that. That's a really great feature. I like the rotary encoder and the tactile push button. Those are good. I like how fast the heat recovery is on the iron, really good. I like the sensor that when as soon as you tip it, it says, oh, you're using the iron again, let's come out of sleep mode, let's come out of low power mode. I like that. That's really nice. I like the fact that the tips are interchangeable with my Hakko. I like that. I like the fact that the Premier kit comes with all these tips. They're very handy. I like having them around. I super enjoy the fact that it has programmable low power and programmable off, and it would be interesting if I needed to have it calibrated to some particular temperature. It's nice that it has a built-in calibration offset, so you can offset by plus or minus 50 degrees Celsius if that's important for your feature set. So it's nice that they've got that in there. And lastly, I like the price. It's $80 for this, so a nice programmable on-off system with a rotary encoder, a lot of good features, good heat recovery, really good for $80 with those 10 extra tips. But you got the $60 option if you just want this and the stand. That's really nice if you want to save a little money and you're not worried about, you just want to buy the tips one off. So you can save some money there. I think that's a really excellent option, because the Hakko, even the analog ones, the ones that don't have all the programmability, those are running $100 still, and so you pay twice as much for that base unit, and you don't have all the features this has. So this is nice. I like it. The displays, it's actually usable on my bench as long as I have it sitting on my bench. I'm happy with the display. I like the blue color. I like the fact that I know it's on, even if it's in power off mode. I can see from the blue light, it leaves the light, it leaves like little blue bars, so you know it's on even though it's in power off mode. So that's really good. And if you need other types of solutions for irons, and Circuit Specialist does have those available, so you can hit your price point with something they have. So that's nice. It's nice that they are supporting me, and hopefully that'll help you guys find equipment and understand what you're looking for. There will be links to the show notes to Todd Fund for this and other products that I review for Circuit Specialist. I enjoy you coming. I enjoy your comments. I enjoy your feedback. Let me know how you like lengthy product reviews like this. I could get my hands on other equipment and do more. It's a lot of fun for me. I enjoy doing it whether I keep the gear or not. I really do like being able to make these types of videos. So feedback, thumbs up, subscribe. Thanks for joining.